welcome back to another edition of This Week in Throws. And you guys can tell that this was a good week in throws because an Olympic silver medalist in the hammer threw a PB over the weekend, and I didn't even know that until I was looking at the World Athletics top list for this video. So that means we're in the best part of the season, which is where the European circuit is full steam ahead. We've got Diamond Leagues, we've got NCAA stuff, just everything is rolling. We've got big meets here in the US. Shout out to the USATF Throws Festival, which we will talk about at length in this video. And we're rolling. And there's results. Like I said last week was kind of the start of it. This weekend was really the first time where you see like huge results every single day. It's such a great time of the year to be it's any time of the year is a great time to be a throws fan. Right now in particular though, and there were some huge performances and some huge competitions this week that I am so excited to talk about. So let's hop right into it. There's only one place, there's only one man you can possibly start this video talking about, and that is the man himself, the 2022 world champion, Kristjan Čeh. Let's give it up for Kristjan because what he did Saturday and Sunday, phenomenal. Saturday in Zagreb, he goes 72-34. The best throw outside of Ramona since 2006. The 8th best performance in history. Breaks a tie between himself, Daniel Stahl, and Yuri Dumchev, I believe, for 6th all time. He now holds that position by himself. 72-34. That was pretty good. He comes back Sunday. He goes to Patuj in Slovenia. Any Slovenians watching this video, I'm sorry for the way I pronounced that. And he goes 72-11. 72 meters. Back-to-back days. There's been 10 competitions in history where men have thrown 72 meters or above. Kristjan Čeh just did it on back-to-back days. The 8th and 9th best performances in world history on back-to-back days. And like these throws, they aren't in like a stadium per se, but it's a heck of a lot more of a stadium than Ramona is. And when you listen to the videos, listening is the key part because there's one thing that you can actually kind of hear what's going on, which is never the case in Ramona. And like, I'm not dissing Ramona at all. Obviously, Maddie Denny and Miklas Alekna are amazing. How could I be dissing Ramona wearing a SEAL throwing club shirt? But to throw 72 meters on back-to-back days away from Ramona is so impressive. And I know it's early in the season, but it's so easy to just look at the way the season has gone so far and be like, okay, it's obviously going to be Miklas Alekna and Maddie Denny dueling for the gold in Tokyo. And Kristjan Čeh, like, you know, he kind of had his big major opener, I guess. He threw a couple times earlier on in the season, but his like big opener was in Doha, and he throws like a shade under 67. And it's like, all right, that's pretty good. And then he comes out, and like there was in Halle, Germany, there was a big discus competition with a lot of the top guys, and Kristjan didn't go there. So he wasn't necessarily competing against like top guys at these two meets, but he didn't need to because he brought the heat all on his own. And like this, I saw the 72-34 on Saturday, and I was like, oh my gosh. The thing is, like, that was Zagreb. It was a Continental Tour meet. Like, there were some more eyes on that. The 72-11 on Sunday, I only saw because Kristjan's wife, Anna Marie Orel Che, she posted a video of it, and it's just like 72-11, so crazy. And it had like 200 views or something when I saw it. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, he's nuts. Obviously, he's been really good for such a long time. Like, you know, he kind of had the breakout season in 2021, but Tokyo doesn't necessarily go the way he wants. gets on top of the podium in 2022, comes second by like the slimmest of margins in 2023, and then doesn't medal last year. And I think that chip on the shoulder is working for him. Um, I mean, 72, 34, 7. I'm just going to keep saying those numbers. 72, 34, 72, 11. They kind of speak for themselves. And on Saturday, when he threw 72, 34, that series was ridiculous. I think it was round 3. He went like 69, 5. And then he goes 70-06 maybe in round 4, fouls round 5. And then I saw the 70-06 and I tweeted about it and I was like, oh wow, like what a great series from Kristjan Čeh, blah, 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 blah. He has one throw left. And I come back like 10 minutes later, check the results page, and he went 72-34. And I was like, oh my gosh, he's ridiculous. It's hard to pick a favorite now. Like, it's hard to say anything about Roger right now. Like, he comes in as the winner from Paris, obviously, but he hasn't opened yet. So we don't really know what kind of shape he's in, whereas we've already seen 3 guys throw 72 this year. The 3 guys that finished in order behind him in Paris, I believe. So it's just kind of hard to gauge. And like, that's the good, like, it's May 28th. So we don't need to make any predictions for Worlds in the middle of September just yet. But Kristjan Čeh staked a nasty claim that he's coming back for what he won in 2022. And once Mikolas ends his NCAA season and comes over to Europe and gets on the Diamond League circuit, those are going to be ridiculous. Those are going to be so much fun. So I talked a little bit about the competition in Halle, but let's kind of bounce over to that now. So this was also on Saturday. So this was going on like the same time, I believe, as Kristjan was throwing 72-34. Matty Denny takes the win here, 68-15, keeps up the winning. So he won in Doha. Now he won in Halle. He's rolling as we'd expect him to do after what he did to start the season. But he's on fire, and like a 68-15 now is at the point where that's like that's a pretty good mark for him. So like that, he's just kind of elevated himself even more. Just his progression the last couple years, like we've known this was coming, and now he's kind of at this level where it's like the level we see out of Kristjan Čeh or Daniel Stahl a year or 2 ago, or Mikolas Alekna, where it's like 68-15 is a crazy good mark. Like that is probably good enough to get on, maybe not this year or last year, but looking at like the last 20 years, like that's good enough to get on basically any podium. And we see that mark and it's just like, okay, that's fine. That's nice. So that's kind of the level Matty Denny is at right now. And it's really, really exciting to see. And, he's just such a good championship performer, even when it comes to like the Diamond League finals and stuff. So Tokyo is just going to be fun. And then you had I talked a little bit last week about just how tough the German men's team is going to be able to make. And they once again had a pseudo-German championships here in Halle. This time it was Mika Sosna coming out on top. He goes 67-21. And then they're 3 through 4. So Clemens Prüfer, Steven Richter, and Henrik Janssen finished within like half a meter of each other. 66-01 down to 65-44. So, like I said, those 4 really, really good guys. You look at the 4 of them, and the worst season's best among them, I believe, is Richter at like 69-60. And one of them is going to get left at home and not make the trip to Tokyo. So it's kind of unfortunate. It's kind of similar to another situation, which we'll get to in a minute or two. But yeah, German champs is going to be a battle once again, like I said last week. So another very interesting result that kind of slipped under the radar until I was checking out the lists for this week is Ecuador's Juan Caicedo. He goes 68-05 at a meet in Salamanca in Spain, and that's the 6th best performance in South American history. He already has the 3rd best performance, he threw 69.60, I believe it was, in 2020. The only ones better than that are Mauricio Ortega's South American record when he threw 70.29, and then Claudio Romero, what he did in Ramona this year, throwing 69.66, I believe. So this is a guy that, like, he's been good, but he hasn't necessarily thrown 69.60 this year, but he's leveled up just consistency-wise, because he's had 4 of his 5, he's had throws 2 through 5, the best marks of his career, in the last month and a half or so. Since April 13th, he's gone 66.8, 66.9, 66.7, and now 68.05. And, like, those are really, really strong marks. And this is a guy who he made it to Paris and Tokyo and Budapest, but he went out in qualifying in all of them. And so, you know, like, South America isn't a continent with a super rich history of discus throwing. They've got some really good guys now when you look at Caicedo and Claudio and Mauricio. And so, like, for Caicedo, this is the consistency, I think, is a really good thing to see, because, like, we've seen he can throw close to 70 meters for a couple years now, but he hasn't been able to replicate that. And he's not quite there yet, but the consistency he's showing is definitely, like if he can throw 66 high regularly now, which he's been doing for the last month and a half, like, honestly, with the way the world has gone this year, that might not be enough to make the final in Tokyo, but, like, that's a really strong fighter's chance. Whereas I think so far, across his 3 global championship appearances, his best throw in the qualifying rounds is like 60 meters flat or something. So really good early season signs out of Juan Caicedo. If Kristjan Čeh was the performer of the week, the meat of the week, 1,000% goes to, I guess, the competition of the week, the women's hammer competition at the USATF Throws Festival in Tucson, Arizona. Oh my gosh, this was insane. So you had 7 American women swept the top 7 spots. In 7th was Janaea Stewart at 71.53. 7 American women threw 71.50 or better in the same competition. 6 American women threw 72.98 or better in the same competition. 5 American women, sorry, had to count for a second there. 5 American women threw 75.47 or better in the same competition. And then it just goes up and up and up from there. And the end result is Brooke Andersen, 79.21 in round 6. Brooke was leading most of the way. Really, really good series out of her. She was leading most of the way. Everyone else was throwing well behind her. And then in round 6, it's Deanna Price, the 2019 world champ, goes huge. 78.51, her best throw since 2021 when she had a couple of surgeries at the end of that season. So just like a return to form for her. You know, she was out of the U.S., like, I guess the big 3. If you look at Brooke, Deanna, and then Janae Casnavoid, Deanna was the only one that made it to Paris last year. Obviously, it didn't go the way she wanted, but she became an Olympian again in a season when she wasn't throwing at this level. So seeing her at this level again, she made it to the Olympic finals in a season she wasn't throwing at this level quite yet. So it's exciting to see what she'll be able to do. So she takes the lead in round 6, and then Brooke Andersen answers 79.21 on the final throw of the competition, moving into the lead, obviously holding on to the lead because it was the last throw of the night. 79.21 to take the win. Just what a day. And you look at this competition out, this is one of the very best women's hammer competitions in history. And it was basically a national championships because you had Deanna's 78.51 is the best second place mark ever. Rachel Richardson, 76.65, huge for her because she bounced back. She fouled out. They had a competition on Thursday and on Saturday. Thursday night, she fouled out. Saturday, she comes in, goes 76.65, the best third place mark ever. Janae Casnavoid, 76.42, her best throw in a little under 2 years, the best fourth place finish ever. And then Annette Chickenwoke, 75.47, 2 centimeters off the best 5th place finish ever, which she owns from this meet in 2021, which is also her PB. So this is an Olympic silver medalist that in May is 2 centimeters off her PB. Janae Casanavoid just throwing so well again. I disrespected her a little bit. I think 2 weeks ago, I was like, oh yeah, Janae opened at like 72 or something. She opened at 74 mid. Janae Casanavoid, if you see this, I'm sorry for disrespecting you like that. I hope I will never do that again. But just Erin Reese went 72.98. And then, like I said, Janaea Stewart went 71.53. Yeah, this competition was nuts. And the fact that we don't have the bye. 3 of these women, or of the 7 that I listed, 4 of them will not be going to Tokyo. 3 of them will be. And like they're going to be, if we don't come away with 2 medals, I'll be stunned. But it's just crazy to think about that, like the depth. I mean, US throws, when you look at the disc, where we still have like the 5 best women in the world or something crazy like that. The men's shot put obviously has been what it is for the last 3 or 4 years now. Women's hammer is this good. The men's discus is coming along nicely. Women's shot is obviously insane. Like, it's just U.S. champs is just barely like a hair under the Olympics or World Championships in most events. In hammer, there's honestly a good chance it'll end up being a step above the World Championships, just given that depth. But yeah, it's this meet was crazy. And for Brooke, this was her 5th time clearing 79 meters. And so there's been 22 all time. There's been 22 competitions where women have cleared 79 meters in the hammer throw. Anita Wlodarczyk has 15. That's GOAT stuff right there. That's like, Anita Wlodarczyk has got to be one of the most underappreciated athletes of the last decade plus. I mean, obviously, women's hammer is like a newer event, and just Anita Wlodarczyk is just the GOAT of all GOATs. And she opened up this week as well at 69.61, I think, maybe 69.91. So solid opener for her. Not quite where she was in 2024, where she ended up almost getting on the Olympic podium, but she's still Anita Wlodarczyk. I think she'll still make the final in Tokyo. At least I really hope so, because that would be awesome. But yeah, just women's hammer is so good, and Anita Wlodarczyk is so good. The U.S. is so good, and Brooke Andersen is so good. And this week, there were 10 women across the world that threw 72.98 or better. And, 6 of them were American. But then you also had, let me see if I can go off the dome, if I can remember who they were. Zhao Ji, the Olympic bronze medalist, threw really well, I believe in Halle. Silja Kosonen of Finland, who was the world leader for a month or 2 there, she threw really well. And I cannot remember the other 2 women, and I apologize for that. And I will list their names here with a sincere, heartfelt apology. But yeah, and that doesn't include the defending world and Olympic champion. So women's hammer it's never been this good before, I don't believe. And especially just with the strength of the U.S., like it's a battle every time out. It's a shame they aren't in diamond leagues, but that's okay. They make it work, and they put on a show no matter what. So women's hammer throwers, potentially the most underappreciated event group in the whole sport of track and field. We see you, and we love you. All right, that was like 20 minutes on basically 2 events. So I am in trouble. Let's talk about some men's shot put now. It was a fun week for them because most of the top shot putters in the world, they had like a tune-up to some extent meet in Europe, and then they went to Rabat for the Diamond League. So the kind of 2 tune-up-ish meets. You started with a lot of the guys were in Zagreb. Guys, checking in here, and I'm going to level with everyone. When I was recording that last night, I forgot that I had already talked about the shot put competition in Zagreb in last week's version of This Week in Throws. So I'm going to cut out my like analysis of it here. But just because I think I reference back to it later on in the video, Peyton Arnall won in 2171, and then a bunch of guys just threw really well, where Tom Walsh also threw 2171, Leo Fabry 2163, and I think it was Chuck Enekwechi 2158, and Roger Steen 2136. So that was the top five there. I'm an idiot, but I hope this now makes sense if I reference back to me that I don't talk about that much. And then in Halle, this was an uncertified competition technically because it was like a street meet, so these marks don't actually count. But Rajinder Campbell took the win in 2140, and he had another throw over 21, which was really, really exciting because his indoor season was not great. So seeing him now come out, this is still decently early on in the season, not too far removed from the indoor season. And he's starting to look more and more like the Olympic bronze medalist that he is. And that continued into Rabat, which we'll get to in a minute. That's exciting out of Rajinder Campbell. Then Joe Kovacs in his season opener, it's not necessarily the 2293 he threw in LA last year. It's 2079. Not a super impressive series out of him, but at his age, like it's kind of hard to kind of gauge what we should be expecting at this point in the season, but he really picked it up in Rabat as well. So now we'll move down to the Diamond League. And so Peyton Arnall took the win here. So he goes 2 for 2 in two very tough fields on the week. This time he goes 2197 to take the world lead that Leo Fabry had held from indoors. 2197, he threw that in round 6 to snipe Rajinder Campbell, who had thrown 2195. So another huge season best for Rajinder. He improved his season best by like a full meter across these two meets, which is super exciting to see. And for Peyton, I mean, it's early, but he's kind of looking like the top dog right now. He completely passed up on the indoor season, but then he's thrown really well the two WSPS meets, obviously taking the win at the one in South Carolina. And then he comes out to Europe and starts off with 2171 in the win, and then 2197 in a very clutch win there. With Ryan's status kind of in flux, with Fabry not having a super great start to the season, he's still yet to break 22. I mean, everyone in the world is yet to break 22, but for Fabry, it feels especially glaring. I realize I've just switched up how I pronounce his name like 3 times, the last 3 times I've said it, but I'm going to go with Fabry. I hope I remember to do that. But for Fabry, like, he had thrown 22 plus, like, 7 meets in a row by this point last year, it felt like. So it's just kind of alarming in a way to see. I mean, in Rabat, he finished, I think, 8th at 2103. And so it is like, it's kind of confusing. Obviously, we don't know like exactly what's going on with his camp. Like he could be dealing with a little injury. He could be, measuring his season a little bit more. So he's having those really big throws at the end of September. Like it's a long season. There's not necessarily a need to be throwing almost 23 meters right now. But that's just kind of something to keep an eye on because he has looked to some extent like a different thrower than he did last year. And then for Joe Kovacs, I talked a little bit about the improvement he saw from Halle to Rabat. He throws 2152 here and finishes 3rd. So, like, still, if we're going to use the comparison to last year, still not 2293, but clearly a step in the right direction. And, like, it's Joe Kovacs. 2152 is a really good mark for this point in a season this long. And he's going to find a way to make it onto his 9th straight global outdoor podium. Like, I'm just going to give up on doubting him because it's an unwise decision, really. Closing out this one with just kind of a statement on the depth of this meet is you had 7th place, Chuck Enekwechi at 2138. Tom Walsh was 6th at 2141. Jordan Geist, 5th at 2142. And Trip Pippery, 2147 for 4th. The other throws comp at the Diamond League was women's javelin. And it was a pretty stacked field. And I was really excited because it was Adriana Vlagos's first real competition throwing against the other top women in the world this year. Obviously, she's opened her season a hair under 67 and then over 67. So I was excited to see what she'd be able to do. But in the end, it was 2025 is the year of Alina Tsenko so far because she goes 64-60 to beat out Vlagos, who only managed 63-25 on the day. And for Tsenko now, like, I don't know how you can really doubt her. Like, she's basically beaten every other top thrower in the world. She's beaten Vlagos. She beat Haruka. She's beaten, like, Mackenzie Little, Victoria Hudson, Flor Denise Ruiz Hurtado, Joanne Van Dyke. I forget. I don't think Nikola Ogrodnikova has opened her season yet. I might be wrong on that. But she's just been just cruising through these Diamond League fields and throwing, like, super consistently, like 64. I don't think she's thrown under 64-50 at a Diamond League, and she's won every single one. So that's just, it's exciting to see, and kind of like not necessarily a new face on the scene because she, was so good in 2022, and 2020 in her junior career, but seeing her kind of reemerge as this true contender on the senior level is exciting. And for Vlagos, like, I don't think this is necessarily like a major red flag for her or anything. Like, I still think she's been the best javelin thrower in the world this year. But she's not necessarily at like a point of invincibility. Like, I mean, Krauser never really, I don't know if you can say invincibility because he has that Diamond League final curse on him. But who's someone that's been invincible? Katzberg last year. Like, he lost once after the Olympics, but I mean, throughout the entire season leading up to that and in Paris, obviously, he was just so clearly ahead of everyone else. And it looked like with Haruka's kind of slow start to the season, slow starts for Mackenzie Little and Victoria Hudson, and a lot of the other kind of old brass, I guess, even though they're not that old. With slow starts for them, it kind of looked like that was going to be Vlagos kind of stepping into that role. The same way Katzberg did last year, where he was really good in 2023 and then just dominates in 2024. You're kind of thinking maybe Vlagos does that where she's really good last year, starts dominating this year, clearly asserts herself as just the dominant force in women's javelin. And I think there's still a chance of that, but this is a sign that it's not like she's completely infallible, untouchable. Like, it feels like the margin has just kind of always been a little closer in women's javelin than some of the other events over the last couple years, even between, like, Haruka with a lot of the other women's throwers. But I think it's kind of exciting to see Vlagos lose to some extent because it's not just that domination, but obviously, like, as Ethan showed us last year, like, the domination can be exciting. But yeah, I'm very intrigued to see how, like, Tsenko and Vlagos are both still pretty young. So I'm kind of excited to see, hopefully that rivalry kind of develops over the next, into this year, into Tokyo. And then hopefully we see some of the other women start throwing a little bit better. Because women's javelin honestly has been kind of lagging behind a little bit this year, mainly with the kind of more veteran throwers. Because you've seen, obviously in the NCAA, the women like Manuela Rotundo and Liana Davidson throwing so well. Yan Ziyi, my GOAT, picked up a professional win in Halle at 16 years old. She threw like 62-70. The young throwers have been throwing so well, and hopefully kind of, maybe it's just maturity. The older throwers realize they don't need to be throwing that well early on in the season. They'll kind of pick it up as the season rolls along and we get closer and closer to Tokyo. That's something to just kind of, another thing to keep an eye on. Let's talk more about some hammer, but this time we're going to talk about the men because the women's competition in Tucson was the night of Saturday, the 24th. That morning, we saw 5 men break 80 meters across 2 meets in Europe, in Zagreb and Halle. Surprise, surprise. So we'll start with Zagreb, where Jan Chasanad, already the world leader, goes 81-91. Sets another PB, 2 times over 81 this year for him. He takes the win there. Like I said, resets his world lead. And then Mihailo Kokon goes 80-36. He's over 80 multiple times now this year. He has not lost a step from last season, so that's exciting to see. Let me go over to Halle and Ethan Katzberg, who, like I talked about last week, had a little bit of a quieter opener, goes like 79 high. Then he comes out and goes 81-22. Really good mark, but not the world lead. Would you, looking back at 2024, If I were to tell you that on May 28th, 2025, Ethan Katzberg had thrown twice and was not the world leader, would you believe me? Because that's the situation we're in right now, and it feels kind of crazy. Um, I don't think like, until someone else throws 84 meters, and, like, Ethan did that twice last year and just threw over, like, 82 within those meets so often, like, until someone else does that, like, no one else is on his level. But it's interesting to see, like, if he has an off day or something in Tokyo, which an off day for Ethan Katzberg is probably still gonna be like 81.5, like, Jan can come up and make the most of that. He could surprise some people. Mihajlo Kokon could surprise some people. Maybe you've got Merlin Hummel, who became the first German since 2007 to break 80 meters in Halle. He went 80.11. Maybe he could surprise some people. Maybe Rudy Winkler, go USA. He went 80.01 in Halle, which is his second time over 80 this season. Really, really strong start to the season for Rudy. We could be seeing him kind of get back into that 2021 form we saw him in, where he was just on such a tear. So that was three guys over 80. And, like, it's just, so three guys in Halle, two in Zagreb. And the next day, this is a guy I kind of alluded to at the beginning, I did not realize that at a meet in Budapest, Bence Halash went 80.97, which is setting a new PB for an Olympic silver medalist and world bronze medalist from 2023. I believe, I know he won a medal. It was either silver or bronze in Budapest. So he sets a PB, and it's just, in 2 days, 6 guys throw 80 meters. For the women, in a week, 10 women throw 73 meters, basically. Like, hammer throwing is where it's at right now. The shot put's been crazy the last couple years. Discus has really picked up steam with, the things we've seen out of Ramona and the things we've seen on the global stage. But hammer is crushing it this year. And those are going to be two. It's good because, like I said, hammer isn't in the Diamond League. Hammer kind of gets forgotten about sometimes. And so I'm super excited for when Tokyo finally rolls around, because those are going to be bloodbaths. And you've got kind of similar storylines in both, where obviously there's been, like, more variance and kind of, like, missing people at world championships, or kind of like underperformances in some cases on the women's side. But you've got two young Canadians coming in as world and Olympic champions, trying to defend their crowns against a lot of hungry, really good competitors. Obviously, I think comparatively, Ethan is kind of a step above dominance-wise where Cameron is on the women's side, but that doesn't make those comps any less entertaining. A couple final quick hitters that I hope are quick. In Chorzów in Poland, we had a javelin competition that was, to some extent, a rerun of the legendary Doha Diamond League. Not quite as dramatic this time, but you had Julian Weber take the win again at 86.12 over Neeraj Chopra, who kind of struggled with some fouls throughout the day, only finished at 84.14. I believe that came in round 6, though. And then Andersen Peters went 83.24. So that's kind of a reminder that, unfortunately, we can't be expecting multiple 90-meter throws every single meet. But for a day where everyone kind of had an off day, like 86.12 is still a pretty solid mark for Julian Weber. And so that's just building my hype train that he's finally going to get a medal in Tokyo. Speaking of people that are finally going to do something, Mark Minicello, mark my words, will finally get on a U.S. team this year, because his season has been he's been throwing so well. He's thrown 4 competitions. He's won 3 competitions against some really solid fields. 82.65, 82.63, 82.30, 80.33. He's crushing. It's kind of the same thing. The one, like, kind of hesitation that I have is pretty similar to what he did last year, where he threw 80-plus meters, a bunch of the best throws of his life early on in the season, but then he kind of petered out as the season went along, didn't throw that well at trials. But for this, like, if you qualify for the Olympics or for Worlds in the U.S., either through rankings or if you hit the standard, you're probably going to go, just because the U.S. men's jav scene isn't the strongest right now. And this many competitions over 82, and like he's not showing signs of slowing down necessarily. The standard might be a bit rich for Mark Minicello, but he should absolutely get through on his world rankings, which is exciting to see because Curtis Thompson needs a friend at World Championships again. And last but not least, kind of a not super busy weeks for women's shot and women's disc, but the two standouts were, unsurprisingly, the Americans, not to pat ourselves on the back too much, but Chase Jackson and Halle, like I said, uncertified competition, so mark technically doesn't count, but she took the win at 20:35, backed it up with the 2017 ancillary mark, and she's now opened her season up 3 straight competitions over 20 meters. Her worst among those is 20:31. In each of those competitions, she's had multiple 20-meter throws, and including her 20:06 from World Indoors. It's now 4 competitions in a row over the 20-meter barrier, which ties her career-long streak, which came at the end of 2022, right off her first world title. So, she's throwing better than she ever has in her life, and that's really exciting to see because, we've been thirsting for that 21-meter throw for a long time. We thought Sarah Mitten might have gotten it in the Diamond League final last year, but with Chase throwing this well, like the sky is the absolute limit for her, and it's just so exciting to see. And then in the disc, it was Val in Tucson. She goes 68-45. Not really a crazy series, but she had like 3 fouls, and then her 2 legal throws were like 63 and 64 or something, and then she hit 68-45. That's what it was, which was like automatic global medal basically. Her and her coach fiance Zeb Sion basically said on Instagram after this was like just a tune-up meet for the Euro Tour that's coming up now. So it's going to be fun to see what she'll be able to do because she's obviously in great shape, having thrown over 70 in a stadium in China, 73-52 in Ramona. So yeah, it'll be fun to see what just how badly Val decimates the entire European continent over the next month or two. Alrighty, everyone, that is enough yapping for this week. It is late, my throat is dry, and we talked about a lot of throws, and we're going to talk about a lot more throws. This week is pretty busy. We've got the Kip Keino Classic, which is going to be just insane hammer competitions. We've got there's a meet in Poland that's got some pretty stacked fields I saw. NCAA regionals should maybe not have the craziest marks because most of the bigger name throwers, like your Mikolas Aleknas, your Kostas Zoltoses, they're probably just going to take one throw and kind of punch their ticket to nationals, do what needs to be done, then take a timeout. So we'll see if there's anything that interesting out of there. The interesting part of NCAA regionals are the people that are doing the triple threat, which is throwing hammer, shot, and disc. There's 9 collegians throwing that across the 2 regionals, so big props to them. But yeah, it's gonna be a good week. It's gonna be a good week, guys. It's always a good week because we're in the end of May now, heading into June. So every week is going to be insane. The videos are going to be getting longer, much to the chagrin of my Premiere Pro and my vocal cords. But we'll power through it for you guys because you deserve to hear about all the crazy throws that go on across the world. And I'm happy to do that duty for you guys. This week, that's all I've got. Thank you guys for watching / listening. Please like, subscribe, follow. I still don't know what you're supposed to do with Spotify podcast, so I'm going to say follow again because that sounds right. Comment, let me know if there's any big throws that I missed, that I overlooked. And yeah, follow the Instagram is Paulie Throws. The Twitter is PHoffMahoney. And I will see you guys next time. Joe Kovacs, like I said, I talked about Zagreb already, didn't I?